Hi there, this is Molendinarius here, and this is the first stream that I've done for this particular series that I'm going to be looking at, which I've called Mi Fa Tota Musica, which is a phrase that was used by Bach on one of his pieces. Mi Fa est tota musica. That's Mi Fa is the entirety of music. And this stream and this series is really about exploring this idea, whether Bach was being hyperbolic or not. I do not think he was being hyperbolic. And I've entitled it The Lost Language of Music, Made Easy. And the reason why I've called it the lost language of music is that it is a lost language. There are a few people attempting to study it and resuscitate it to some degree. Notably Nick Baragwanath and his book on solfège in the 18th century, and a few other writers here and there. But there's not much aimed at how to go about really learning it in a practical sense. What I've done and what I'm going to be doing is looking at mainly 18th century materials that teach this system of music, a language of music, and it is a language. I'm going to start really at the beginning and then work my way through. This is a live stream, so I'm just going to be chatting to you. It's not a lesson as such. And every day I'm going to be studying for myself and sharing my study with you. Maybe not every day, because sometimes I'm here on the spinet. Sometimes I'm upstairs on my reed organ. So when I'm upstairs, I'm not really set up there for recording. So let's have a look at a PDF I'm interested in looking at. Let's see if I can get it to load. What I want is this one. I'm not that good at doing this just yet, so just bear with me while I work out how to do this. Okay. Right, here's the book I want to look at. I think I now have it. Do you want to keep the unsaved changes? Save. All right. It looks like I've succeeded. But I'm in the wrong place. So I'm going to scroll back. I scroll right the way back. Sorry for this. The text I'm looking at is called The Grounds of Music by William Tansur. Now, William Tansur wrote a series of textbooks on music, and they are interesting to me because he uses a version of the Mi Fa system that was taught to Mozart, Bach, everyone, right the way through to Beethoven. Beethoven learned the system as well, and after that it pretty much died out and was replaced by something called fixed do, where do became middle C, or movable do. But the movable do still uses the 7-note scale: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, or ti, do, like tea to drink with jam and bread. In the system we are looking at, there is no C or T. It doesn't exist. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes in this system, and various combinations of those 6 notes, which we're going to be looking at. So here's the title, the frontispiece, Gloria in excelsis Deo, glory to the Lord in the high places. Lord, tune my heart within my breast and frame it to thy holy will, I think it says there, and let thy spirit within me rest, which may my soul with comfort fill. All right, so that's William Tansur, and the book is called A Complete Melody, or The Harmony of Zion, in 3 books, containing a new complete introduction to the grounds of music, theoretical and practical, vocal and instrumental, teaching all its rudiments and composition in all its branches by way of dialogue in a new and easy method, with all the terms used in music as derived from the Greek, Latin, French, Italian, etc., in 12 chapters. And William Tansur, author of The Melody of the Heart and The Beauty of Holiness. This is the 5th edition, corrected by the author according to his original manuscript, with large additions. So let's ignore the next part, because it doesn't really help do what I want to do. Right, a table of contents of the first book of the gamut and its use, and of the 3 cliffs, which are called clefs nowadays. So we're going to look at the gamut pretty much, and things related to it. And that's what we're going to be dealing with for quite some time. In fact, all the time, in one form or another. We will not leave the gamut behind us. So chapter 1 of the gamut and its use, and of cliffs. The sole subject of this following discourse is sound, which art or science is called music, which may be performed or made either by a natural voice, and while I'm doing this I will be singing, always. I don't play without singing, that's a general rule I have, and I'm trying to sing with the mi-fa system, which was called solfeggio. Not the modern solfeggio that's used nowadays. It's a different type of solfeggio, which may be performed or made either by a natural voice or an artificial instrument, such as this one, which art may be properly summed into these 3 following heads: tune, time, and concord. Tune is regulated by the scale of music called the gamut, which gives a true distinction of all sounds or tones, either grave or cheerful. Time is comprehended and understood by marks or characters called notes. And if you can't read music, I would highly recommend you go into the App Store, certainly for Android it's available, and download a little thing called Note Flash. I believe it's got a red logo, or reddish cherry colored with a treble clef on it. And this is really good because when you press a note, it tells you whether you got it right or not. It shows you on the stave, and then you press it, it hears you, and if you got it right, it shows you the next note, and so on and so forth. And you can start off with just 5 notes, and then you can increase it, and then add sharps and flats and ledger lines and so on and so forth. And it is a good way to learn to read the notes relatively painlessly if you don't know how to read them on the staff. So, which being fixed regularly on the lines and spaces of the gamut, guideth the performer to a true and exact movement of time, either quick or slow, which when performed by voice or instrument alone, 'tis called melody. Concord is when 2, 3 or more sounds are performed together in musical concordance, there being the distance of 3, 5, 8 or more notes above one another, which, when regularly composed together, 'tis called harmony, i.e. 3 in 1. The true nature and use of these 3 heads, as in tune, time and concord, I shall endeavour to demonstrate, and all their useful branches thereunto belonging in a plain and familiar method by way of dialogue in the 12 following chapters. So it's not a very long book. We're not going to only be looking at this, though. I'm going to go into other texts written by other people that explain things differently and perhaps in some respects more clearly. So the scale of music. This is the scale of music, as authors report, was composed about the year 960 by Guido Aretinus, a monk of the Saint Benedict's order, who first received it from the Greeks and afterwards reduced it into the form as it now appears, or as it did appear, because the form doesn't appear anymore because nobody uses it anymore. The French destroyed it by adding C or T and got rid of it completely. And the Great Conservatory of Paris and its method took over, and the Conservatory of Leipzig as well in Germany. And the one in Naples, the 3 in Naples, that was reduced to 1 and then to none. That was the prime source of the Italian method of learning music that ruled from the year 960 until the late 1800s. The last textbook that I'm aware of that teaches this method explicitly was printed in 1830 something at St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna. This is the great cathedral that Mozart was lined up to be Kapellmeister at just before he unfortunately passed away, and he would have been teaching this method. Anyway, the last published method was published by Prindl, who was the Kapellmeister at St. Stephen's in 1830 odd, and after that the method just died away. So St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna was one of the last holdouts of the Italian method of teaching, which is what we're looking at here. So, and Haydn, or Handel, I can't forget, Haydn, I think, studied and was a little choir boy at that cathedral as well. So this scale contains all the degrees of sound, which is the grammar or groundwork of all music, and it is a grammar. The gamut gives us a language of music that is different to the language of music that was developed by the Germans under the university system in Leipzig, when music became academical and testable in examinations. The teachers in the Italian tradition were not interested in examinations, they were not interested in tests, they were not interested in marks and percentages, but in practical application, which for them meant producing somebody who could sit down at the keyboard and play music, not just music that's written down on the staff, but music that came out of their heads. Like that scene in Amadeus where Mozart is extemporizing on a minuet, and we are showing the Italian professors astonished by this. Of course, they would not have been astonished by it at all. They could all do that without any problem. Salieri could do that. So, let us go on. So, without this knowledge, no knowledge can be gained of this noble and divine science. And if that is true, then nobody has any knowledge of it at all anymore, apart from a few people who have devoted themselves to resurrecting this ancient and, dare I say, noble method of understanding the language of music. So let's have a look at the scale of music. It's called the gamut. And this is because the bottom note on the grand staff, which we have in front of us, is G, down here. And it also is ut. So it's G, ut, gamut. And it's G from the Greek letter gamma. Gamma, ut. And this is why we get the English expression, the whole gamut means the whole series. So where is this on the keyboard? Well, we have middle C, which is smack in the middle of the keyboard. The two short notes, the first long note to the left of that is your C. And if you go down to the identical C below that, and then you count down 4, including that C, 1, 2, 3, 4, that gives you the lower G of your gamut. Now, let's have a look at the 3 cliffs, or clefs as they are called nowadays. And we start off with G, Sol, Re, Ut. So let us find middle C again. If you remember, the 2 short keys that are by themselves, and the 3 short keys, 2 short keys. The first long key to the left of the first of those 2 short keys is middle C. And we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is G, Sol, Re, Ut. So it's G, Sol, GS, as it used to be written. And it still is written. The G clef, which is now our treble clef, is composed of a G, and superimposed on top of that is a long S, that long line that goes through the middle, that swirls through the whole thing, is actually a long S. And in the middle is the G. And the G curls around, and the inside of that little spiral points at the line that is G, Sol, Re, Ut. And this is the name of this note, G, Sol, Re, Ut. We don't have to concern ourselves at this point with the full ancient name of each note, but when I'm explaining how things work, it will be important to be aware of it. So G, Sol, Re, Ut. Then we go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that gives us C, Sol, Fa, Ut. And this clef looks like a little H in this system that he has here. Sometimes it's written slightly differently, with 2 horizontal lines here on a slight angle. Sometimes it's more vertical. Sometimes the vertical lines have little curves on the top of them, but the effect is the same. The 2 horizontal lines surround the line that is C. What's important to note is that this clef was movable. So it could be on any of the 5 lines, and any of the 5 lines would be C, and you would read from that point. This was done to avoid having to write notes above and below the 5 lines. So you just start your music lower or higher and move your cliff around rather than use lots of ledger lines. But this cliff, the C cliff, has fallen out of use. I think viola players still use it, but that's about it. And then if we count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we reach F, Fa, Ut. F, Fa, Ut is the first long note on the left of the 3 short keys. So the 3 short keys, the first long key to the left of those 3, that group of 3, is F, Fa, Ut. And this is the F clef. It is a stylized letter F. It has various shapes and forms. The 2 dots, 1 on each side of the line, that line is the line of F, Fa, Ut. So we have three notes. We have a G, a C, and an F. Now I'm going to read a little bit of what William Tansur has to say. The scale is divided into three parts, each part including 5 lines. You can see them there on the right with these little thick curves showing us 5 lines, in which you have a name for every line and every space, they being either a whole or a half tone distant from one another. And what does he mean by that? And this is where mi fa becomes very, very important. We are going to look at, my thumb is now on C, sol fa ut. Remember, C sol fa ut is the first long key to the left of the 2 short keys. And I'm going to pronounce the gamut for the 6 notes in this, what is called a hexachord, which is just 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first of these is called ut. As you see, C, sol, fa, ut. This note C can be called sol, it can be called fa, and it can be called ut in musica recta. Musica recta, straight music or correct music. And I'll explain to you later what we mean by that, because it can have other names when we go to musica ficta, which is music that is unreal, really. So I'm going to call this ut. The Italians later on called it do. I'm going to avoid calling it do for the simple reason that after this system died out, it was replaced by what is called fixed do, the do, a deer, female deer, that variety of do. And it's confusing because they're completely different systems. So when the Italians were teaching this system, when Mozart was learning it, he was singing do. They were all singing do. But at that point, the system that replaced it didn't exist that uses do, the either movable do or fixed do. So to distinguish it, we will do what was originally done and call do ut. The reason why Guido d'Arezzo used ut is because he wanted to have all of the vowels, so that somebody singing would be practicing singing all of the vowel sounds. The Italians didn't like the oo sound very much, found it unpleasant, and it was replaced by do. So let us go back to this. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. We're ignoring the sol, la, mi, fa, sol, la, this on the right hand side of Tansur. He has a variant of the system. It's not that far removed from it, actually. And in some respects it's useful. We'll use part of it. But the system that was taught in the Italian conservatories was slightly different. And the system of Guido d'Arezzo was slightly different. William Tansur slightly simplified it. But the essential part, which is mi-fa, is present. And I'll explain to you what William Tansur has done to simplify it later on, because some of his simplification does make life easier. But for now, we are going to stick with the old system. Sometimes I may slip and sing do. Do not concern yourself. Do and ut are the same thing. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, la, sol, fa, mi, re, ut. Notice that the notes don't have the same names when I go up. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. fa, sol, fa, mi, re, ut. Or ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Because this si, sol, fa, ut can also be fa. And indeed, we will be calling it fa as well. So that is if you're only using 5 fingers, which is what we're going to do for now. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. And I'm going to forget about the la. We'll introduce it again later on. And we'll go backwards and sing it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Fa, la, sol, fa. Notice I'm now using Tansur's system on the way back down. Do. Let's call it fa, re, mi. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol. Whereas Tansur he has fa, sol, la, fa, sol. But on the way down, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. So on the way down we're using Tansur's system, and on the way up we're using Guido d'Arezzo's system. What Tansur did was he just simplified everything by ignoring the notation system for the way up the scale, and is just using the notation system for the way down the scale, and then using the same names on the way down as for the way up, which does simplify things to some degree, but it also complicates things because there's a lot of repetition of notes. A lot of syllables are the same. So we are going to do this. Ut, starting on C. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Now, let's go back to his explanation. The scale is divided into 3 parts. We are now looking at the first, or we're looking at the middle part, the C, sol, fa, ut clef. Starting with C. So not really following the tenor. We are moving in the tenor range, but in the top part of it, from C to G. And you have a name for every line and every space, they being either a whole or half tone distant. And this is what I want to explain now, because the whole mi, fa thing is all about this, ultimately. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Only using our 5 fingers, forgetting about la. Do, re. From do to re, you will notice there is a key. So if we were to play that key, it would be half the distance between do to re, and that's a half tone or semitone. And this is a full tone. Do, re. Same, from re to mi, there is a key in between these 2 keys, the short one. So that's a full tone. But mi, fa, there's nothing there. The 2 long keys are adjacent to each other with no short key in between. We're now at the valley between the 2 short and the 3 short. Mi, fa, do, re, mi, fa, sol. So mi, fa is a semitone or half tone. And on the way back, sol, fa, la. So it's either mi, fa or fa, la. Fa, la, la. Fa, la, la. Fa, la, la. Fa, la, fa, la, fa, la, fa, la, fa, la. Fa, la, fa, la, fa, la. Fa, la, fa, la, fa, la. Right. Any half tone is fa, la on the way down, or mi, fa on the way up, mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa. Right. So, the power of the system is that mi, fa is always a semitone, no matter how we do it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Let us now jump to sol. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Put your thumb on sol. Sol is G, sol, re, ut. So G, sol, we're going to sing it now as ut. Ut, re. That's a tone. Ut, re. Re, mi. It's a tone. Why? Because there's a short note between. And then mi, fa, we're in the valley between the two groups of short keys. Sol. Sol, fa, la, sol, fa. So let's sing this. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, do. Oops, I'm singing do. Let's go to ut. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Notice that I sung fa there, even though it is not given. It's G, sol, re, ut, but it can be. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut. And let's go back to C, sol, fa, ut. So we go sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Si, sol, fa, ut. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol. Ut. So mi, fa, and at the top of the mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa, mi, fa on the long keys. So these two notes adjacent to each other with no note in between are mi, fa and mi, fa. The F cliff. Let us put our thumb on C, sol, fa, ut and count down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And your little finger will be on F, fa, ut. Now let's have a look at this. We're going to sing it as ut. Ut, re. That's fine. There's a short note in between it. Ut, re. Re, mi. That's a full tone. There's a short note in between. But now we need to go to mi, fa. We cannot go to the long key because there's a short note in between, and mi, fa is a half tone. So we have to go up to the short key, which is the flattened note of the following note that we can't play. So ut, re, mi, fa, and then sol requires a tone, and so we jump to si, sol, fa, ut. Sol, si, sol. In this case it's sol. Let's go back to F, fa, ut. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. So thumb on the F, using each finger in turn. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Right, you need to practice these until you can play them smoothly and evenly. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, 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 fa. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, 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 fa. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. So, observe, says William Tansur, that every eighth letter, together with its degree of sound, bears the same name as was before. the scale being founded on no more than 7 letters when we're numbering them. And we do number them when we are producing chords, that's groups of notes together in what is called thorough bass. And sometimes I will refer to the number of a note, 1 to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, if we keep going up, or we just count from 8 and we go 2, 3, 4 in the next octave up, octave being a group of 8 notes. So let us start with G. G, sol, re, ut. G. What's the next note up? A, la, mi, re. B, fa, ba, mi. C, sol, fa. D, la, sol, fa. And I, la. That is the hexachord, the group of 6 notes. There are 3 groups of 6 notes that comprise the musical system of the gamut. So this scale, says William Tansur, you must learn perfect by heart, so that having the name of every line and space perfect in your memory, you may readily call your notes in any of them. Notice that they have slightly different names, the ones at the bottom end of the scale, gamut, a, re, be, mi, si, fa, ut, di, sol, re, e, la, mi, f, fa, ut, and then it's G, sol, re, ut, where the lower G was gamut. Gamut, G, sol, re, ut. A, la, mi, re, where the A below that was a, re. B, fa, ba, mi, where the B below that was just be, mi. Si, sol, fa, ut, where it was just, the lower C was just si, fa, ut. D, la, sol, re, and the lower D was just di, sol, re. E, la, mi is the same, e, la, mi. F, fa, ut, f, fa, ut, and so on. So there are slight differences in the naming of these. Observe also, because the gamut only covers right, if you want to go above this, then the notes that ascend above F, fa, ut in the treble, anything above F, fa, ut in the treble, is called a note in alt, in altitudo in the Latin, in the high places. And all the notes that descend below gamut in the bass are called doubles in the English tradition, as in double F, fa, ut, double e, la, mi, double di, sol, re, etc. So the scholar here says, all this seems so plain and easy to learn that I doubt not but soon to get it perfect. Actually, it takes some time. Do not think this is going to be quick. It will take time to do this. The conservatories in Naples spent 3 years on this system with the young students. Of course, they were very, very young. And they were learning other things at the same time as well, learning how to read, how to write, and learning Latin and maybe a bit of Greek and all the things they had to learn, as well as music. They were not only learning music in the conservatory. They were also being educated in general. So all this seems so plain and easy to learn that I doubt not but soon to get it perfect, and then with a little instructions I shall soon become a master of it. Notice that he writes, and then with a little instructions, plural. Whereas nowadays we would say with a little instruction. And then the master, Mr. Tansur, says, be not too much conceited in thyself, lest thou art guilty of that great folly of being wise in thy own conceit. For it will be of no advantage to thee to learn a table and dost not know the use of it. As most Latin scholars, for example, they can recite their declensions and recite their verbs, but ask them to open their mouth and speak to you in Latin, they cannot do it. So the same is true of music nowadays. Music scholars nowadays cannot speak music anymore. A few organists can still speak music. They can sit down at their organ and they can play stuff that's not written on the notes in front of them. Jazz musicians, some jazz musicians, can speak music in their language of music, but the language of music that is the language of classical and Baroque and earlier music is no longer spoken. It's just read. So it's like people reading literature and not being able to write it. So the conservatories in Naples taught music writing, and they were very efficient. They produced people that could write music extremely quickly. People could churn out an opera in 3 weeks, sometimes less. So they were fluent in this language, and the language was this language of solfeggio that I'm looking at here. So, says William Tansur, let me advise thee to learn one part first, which suits best thy voice, before you proceed any further. So, when you're singing, find a group of 5 notes, or whether you are soprano, treble, tenor, bass, and treble, and sing that. So you don't need to be on middle C. You could be on the C above or the C below. It makes no odds when we're doing the exercises that we're going to do next. And the scholar says, but pray must all the hard names be learnt with them. And the master says, those proper names are only set for antiquity. And indeed, I don't think it's necessary to learn them, although it's nice to know them. I'm going to use them now just to explain how the 3 6-note systems work and why they are called the way they're called. But after that, I'm not going to refer to them by their full names very often. We're just going to do ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. So those proper names are only set for antiquity. The first letters of a syllable, sol, fa, etc., are sufficient for the understanding of any lesson of music. But next, I will set down the scale in a more easy method, in their proper places, one above the other, as thus. So what we have here is the same thing as on the previous page, which is this, but he's slid the ledger lines across rather than piled them up one above the other. So the scale of music on the 5 lines is the 3 usual cliffs. Now the C cliff is no longer used. You can see its advantage, that you have all the notes within the 5 lines rather than have them as ledger lines above or below the cliff. So let's look at the F cliff, starting on G, the gamut, and I'm going to sing it with the Italian solfeggio method, not with his method. So ut, re, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, re, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, re, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re. So the when you are combining all of them to make one great big long system, usually we don't go all the way up. So fa, re, mi, fa, sol, re, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, re, mi, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. That is the Italian way of doing this, and this is combining groups of 6. And I'll talk about how that's done later. So those syllables that are set under the notes are used in vocal music. The letters above are used in music for instruments, etc., and also to direct the composition of both. So the solfeggio is for singing and for understanding the relationship between the notes. Observe that in the compass of these 8 notes, there are 2 of them called semi or half tones, which are from mi to fa and from fa to la. And suppose a whole tone to be an inch or a centimeter. The half tone is but half an inch or half a centimeter, which is a mathematical demonstration. So it's not a pure thing. So that's the introduction to the so what I want to do now is move to a different text. Let's see if I can find it. This is a text by Artemis Nixon Johnson called the Parlor Organ Instruction Book, and we're on page 46. Now, in the Parlor Organ Instruction Book, Johnson lays out a series of exercises which he calls finger exercises. But looking at them and having studied them, I am of the firm opinion that these are very ancient solfeggio exercises that were then just used as finger exercises. And musicians are very conservative, so they tend to teach what they were taught. And Artemis Nixon Johnson is only one generation removed from the end of this great tradition of the Italian solfeggio. And so his teachers would have been familiar with it, and they would have taught him using the methodologies. And so a lot of, I suppose you could say, archaeological relics of it still exist in music textbooks from the 1800s and the very late 1700s, but certainly the 1800s. So let's have a look at this. We are starting with C, sol, fa, ut, only playing 5 notes. So ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. And then we go ut, mi, sol. Ut, mi, sol. Now let's go up to G, sol, re, ut, which is where your little finger is, and repeat. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. Ut. Ut, mi, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. Ut, mi, sol. Or do, mi, sol. Do, mi, sol. Or you could sing fa, mi, sol. Fa, mi, sol. And let's jump down to C. Ut, mi, sol. Notice that we are not using any of the short keys to produce this harmony. Now let's jump down 1 key to F, fa, ut, and play ut, re, mi, fa, sol, remembering that fa is a short note. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol.Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol. Ut, mi, sol. All on the long keys. Ut, mi, sol. Ut, mi, sol. So let us go back from C, from G, and from F. Again, C, G, and F. Right, these have got names. The sequence of notes, ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, starting on C, is called the natural sequence. So we're only going up until sol because we only have 5 fingers on our hands, and we are just sticking to 5 fingers. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol for now. But remember, there's la there as well. This is natural. The hard sequence, as it's called, durum in Latin, starts on G. Sol, re, ut. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. 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 And the soft sequence starts on F. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. Ut, re, mi, fa, sol. And then if you play ut, mi, sol from C, ut, mi, sol from G, and ut, mi, sol from F, fa, ut. Now la we're going to introduce here, and I'm going to do something and show you something very interesting. Starting on C, what I'm doing here is this. I'm going ut, mi, sol, and then I'm going up to the octave of ut, which we'll call fa. Ut, mi, sol, fa, and then we're going to play la, la, sol, ut, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, and then la. So ut, re, mi, on the way back down, it's la. So on the way up, it is one syllable. On the way down, it's a different syllable. Ut, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, la. Ut, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, la. And these are harmony. And no short keys are required. Let's do the